Welcome once again to another video. We're carrying right along with our BLoC pattern, and we're carrying on with this sign-in page, which you can see I have open in a Chrome window on the sidebar. So the first thing we're going to do is make this not look quite as bad as it does now, because I do not like looking at that thing. So I'm going to go into my sign-in page. I believe this was it. I'm not going to do too much. I'm just going to wrap my... I'm thinking what the best way of doing this is. Probably what I'll do is just give it a main axis alignment of main axis alignment.center, like that. And then I'm going to wrap this in a container. And I'm going to give the container a width. But before that, I'm going to wrap... No, that's fine actually. Give it a width of media query.of context.size.width times 0.95. And of course I could have also given it a padding. I could do that. I'm going to do it this way this time. For some reason I'm not getting any outputs here, which I should be. Don't know why this is considered a... Oh, yeah. Just refreshing this. So it looks a bit better already. Still not giving me the size I would expect, so I might end up giving it a padding. Oh, because it's not centered. That makes sense. Alignment of center. And as I mentioned, it might have just been easier to give it a padding. I'm not sure why I'm doing it this way, but I started doing it this way. So now I'm doing it this way. Okay, it's still not behaving, so I'm just going to give it a padding. Padding of const edge insets dot all symmetric, I think. Horizontal, give it 10. Vertical, it doesn't need any, but I'll give it 10 anyway. See if this looks any better. Yeah, it does look a bit better, not too much. So in my flat button here as well, what I'm going to do is give it a text style. Style of text style color of colors dot white, and that should improve it a bit. I also want to give this a padding. I can't remember if flat button has padding or if I need to wrap in a widget. I can't see any padding. It does. Const insets dot symmetric again. And I want the vertical padding to be a bit more than it is now. And the horizontal padding probably is fine the way it is now, actually. I'm really not used to using this computer anymore. Normally I use my Mac for work. So that's why my fingers are not quite as smooth as before. So that didn't quite give me the outputs that I was expecting. So instead I'm going to wrap my text in a padding. Const edge insets dot symmetric vertical 5, horizontal is probably fine actually. Yeah, the shortcuts are a bit different on this system, and why did this go to the other place? Yeah, the shortcuts are a bit different on this system and my Mac, which is why I might do some awkward things. Okay, the button's still not looking the way I expected it to. Let's make this really, really large, just so we can verify that it's working. So it is working. Let's try 15 here. That doesn't work. It's too much. 1010. That's okay. I do want this to be a bit bigger. Font size, let's give it 16. It looks better. And then sign in up at the top here. I'm gonna make this 26. Does look better. Still doesn't look very good, but it is better than before. I'm gonna give this a height of 20 here. Yeah, it's not great, but it's not quite as bad as before. This isn't what I want to focus on anyway. I'm going to give this a const, so I'm going to have to remove these two. Okay, so that aside, we were actually talking about the block. So if you guys remember from last time, we made the majority of the blocks, the majority of the block. We wrote most of the code in here in map event state. And now what I have to do is actually hook up this block to the page where I want to use it. And I don't know if you guys remember from the previous time, but we're also using the auth check block over here, right? And that's then used in the splash screen. The splash screen checks to see if we're logged in or not. And then depending on whether or not we're logged in, it either takes us to the home screen or to the sign-in screen. And now what I want to do is hook up my second block, my auth block, to the sign-in screen. So what I could do would be to wrap all of this in a block provider and give it the auth block, and that's probably the best thing to do actually. That's what I would recommend doing. However, what I'm going to do instead, this particular case, is I do it over here. I'm going to create it over here instead, for the simple reason that I want to show you guys how to use the multi-block provider. You know, I'd already written this code last time, so I'm going to keep using it. But normally I'd really recommend that you use the block provider as low as possible in the widget tree to still be the parent of everything that needs to access it, if that makes sense. So putting it all the way here above material app is not the best place. The best place would be in the sign-in page over here. But yeah, it's not how we're doing it this time. Okay, so for the multi-block provider, what it's going to do is just give us this list of block providers. And if we were not using a multi-block provider, we would just use this part without the providers list and without this, obviously. Okay, so what I'm going to do is have another block provider here, and I'm gonna say create context, and this time we're creating the auth block. And if I remember correctly, it doesn't take any input currently, but it will take some input in the future. Gonna import it, fix the imports, and save it. Just gonna check my auth block if I got the right one. So it doesn't currently take any inputs, but I am gonna have to change this in just a second. You guys will see why in a minute. Let's quickly look over the functions we had over here. So we had as event, we had email changed, password changed, confirmation changed, toggle, show, confirm, and login pressed and registration pressed. These two we haven't filled out yet, but we will really soon. So we're going to go back into our, so we're done here. We don't need main anymore. We're going to go back into sign in page, and sign in page now has access to our block because the block provider. So what we need to do is use either a block builder or a block consumer or a block listener to get access to that state. And I'm thinking what we actually need, because we don't need as much of the state as you guys might be thinking. And what I'm also going to do is pull up the state just so we can remember what's in it. So email address, password confirmation, show confirmation. I definitely need access to this, and error message. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, in my sign-in page, wrap my column with a block builder. And this is going to be the auth block and the auth state, if I remember correctly. And then I need to import this. And I'm going to have to import this as well. Fix the imports. It's messed up all of this. I might have to do this manually. Let's try again. Yeah. I've noticed this a few times. Whenever I try to use this wrap with BLoC Builder, BLoC Listener, BLoC Consumer Provider, it always kind of messes up my widgets. So what I'm going to do instead is just wrap with widget and do it manually. So there's going to be a BLoC Builder, which is going to take auth BLoC. First, going to take the name of the block and then the name of the state associated with that block. So in this case, it's going to be auth state. And then this is going to have, if I remember correctly, a builder function. Okay, import BLoC, put this. And this is going to take a builder function. And what the builder is going to do is the builder is a function which is going to take the context and the state, and then we can return some kind of widget tree, some widgets, whatever. I'm just using an arrow function because I'm just going to return the column. But what you could do instead is have a regular function and then do something in response to the states, or get some specific data in response to the state. One thing I might often do is pull out a specific part of it. So I might say state dot, like if I have something really long, if I have a list of something especially, in the projects I'm currently working with, I'll give you an example. I have like display my quotes, and all these quotes have line items, and all these line items might have a specific key, such as an order ID. And this is actually a list. So this might have the index 0 because I want to get the first one. So I could say final order ID equals, and do something like this, right? And this would just be because I don't want to type out all of this. So this is, as I mentioned, in the projects I'm currently creating for my workplace, my real work, I have this exact line in several different places, and it's just so long. So if I want to use order ID like over and over again through this, I don't want to write all this out. So instead I'd say final order ID and get it that way. But we don't need to do that right now. So now we can access the state via state dot and then get whatever property we want. And then the properties we have are these ones. So the first thing I'm going to do is go down to where I have my text field here. And I'm going to copy this along with the size box. And this one is going to be confirmation. But I only want this to show if states.showConfirmation is true. Right? So I'm going to say is if state.showConfirmation. And keep in mind that we are inside a column. Inside a column or inside a row or inside a stack, I can use these if statements like this directly, but you can't have the brackets around them. I can't use an if else. I can only use if, and then whatever comes after has to be like one line. I can't make it a complicated thing. Alternatively, I can also have if else in the form of a ternary. I could say show state.showConfirmation, and then the question mark, and then do something, and else do something else, but we're not doing it this time. Okay, now it is a single line. Remember I said that. So that means that this is one line, this is a separate different line. So as a result, I need to repeat this. I need to say if state.showConfirmation like this, and this wants a const over here, and that's fine. And this counts as a single line. It doesn't matter that it's wrapping to the next line. That's fine. So now we're going to have an extra text field, but only when showConfirmation is true. And what I'm going to do also to make it a bit easier to see is give it some icons. I think it was leading icon. icon. Or maybe it's under decoration. Yeah, under decoration there's an icon. I'm going to give it an icon of icon, icons dot, and I believe there's an email. Yeah, that's fine. And then for password, I'm going to give this an icon of icon, icons dot lock, outlined. And then for the last one over here, I'm going to give it an icon of icon, icons dot lock. I'm just refreshing this. We should not see the confirmation yet because when this loads, show confirmation is false. Okay, so now we can see a nice icon for the email and for the password. And the reason I made this outline is because I want the confirmation and the regular password field to be a little bit different. I don't want them to look exactly the same. And if I have solid outline, it's going to look like quite funky. It's going to look quite weird. But if I put my outline in the middle, it looks like it's done intentionally. It has more of a pattern, so it looks much better. So yeah, we're going to leave that like that. Yeah, that's fine. Now we actually need some kind of way to switch between the different states, right? So what I'm going to do is in my column, what I'm going to do is wrap this column in another column. And I'm going to give this column a main axis alignment of main axis alignment dot space between, right? And this first column is going to be my first child, so this is going to be at the top. And I'm going to wrap this column in an expanded. So for now, nothing's changed. Because it has to be expanded, it's going to stay at the top. But now that I have this, I'm going to make another container here. So this container is going to go on the very, very bottom of my sign-in page. And I'm going to give this a height. So I'm going to hard code the height to be, I'll try 40, but it might have to be something different. We'll see. And give it a child of center. And this child then is going to have a child of text, which is going to say, so now we're going to use that ternary from the state.showConfirmation. So I'll say state.showConfirmation. So if showConfirmation is true, then we're going to say already have an account. And we'll leave it just like this. And if show confirmation is false, we're going to say don't have, I'll use double quotes here, don't have an account, like this. I'll change the style afterwards. I'll see what looks good, what doesn't look good. Instead of a text widget, I'm going to wrap this in a row. And then I'm going to have an inkwell. And my inkwell is going to have a child of text. And this one is going to have the same thing, state.showConfirmation, question mark. So already have an account, sign in instead. Else register, like that, and that's fine. I'm going to give this a style of text style. I'm going to give this a color of colors dot some kind of light blue, just to show that it's clickable. And now we get to the untap. So I've shown you guys how to access the states, right? We're going to access that state through state dot and then whatever field name we have. To actually emit that event, we're going to say context. I might be doing this wrong. .BLoC, and then the name of the block, of block, with the brackets afterwards, .add, and then the name of the event over here. So I'm going to have const of events, and let me just check what I had. Toggle show confirmation, that's what it is. Toggle show confirmation. And yeah, we're going to have to make it an arrow function like this. Okay, so again, this syntax is how we add an event to the block. We get the actual block through context.block, then the name of the block with brackets, and then to add an event we say .add and then the name of the event. Similarly, we can do this inside our auth block. If I'm in here, I already have access to my block, of course, because I'm inside the block. So here I could just say add, and then I could give it whatever events I wanted to. Auth events dot then whatever. Obviously here I'm not going to do it, but just showing you how you could do it if you wanted to. Okay, so back here. In this case, however, to get access to that block, I'm going to have to say context.block, and then, yeah, like that. So that's going to work. And again, over here, that toggle show confirmation, if we look back to what we did here, we just took the state of show confirmation and we're inverting it, right? So because we're flipping it the other way around, it doesn't matter if we're currently, if we want to switch to sign up or if we want to switch to register, because we're just saying whichever one it is, give me the opposite value. Alternatively, we could also create a longer function here, so not an arrow function, and do some kind of if check and say if state.show confirmation, then do one thing, else do something else, right? So if we had written this differently, we would have to do it like this, but it's not the way we've written it. We were trying to simplify it. Okay, so that's fine. Let's go ahead and refresh this, see what it looks like, see if I broke anything. Okay, so I did not manage to censor this successfully, and the reason for that would be the rows. Yeah, the row's probably not taking the entire size, or it's not censoring its children properly. So let's give it a main axis alignment of main axis alignment.censor and try again. And that's good. And then after this, we're going to give this size box so there's a space between don't have an account and register. So size box, and we'll give this width of 10. This, and that looks much better. Maybe the text is a bit small. Maybe it's not. Click to register. Okay, and you can see that when we click this, the state's going to change, and once the state changes, the state of show confirmation, of course, changes, and that's going to make the missing field show up. So when I click to register, now you can see that this text over here has become already have an account sign in, exactly how I wanted it to. And now I have my third field here. I can see email, password, and confirmation, right? But if I just want to sign in, click this, and I just have this, just have two fields. Similarly, we want to do this. We want to do the same thing with the sign in button. I want the text to change. So if I find my button here, and my text here is sign in, so I'm going to say state.show confirmation. If I'm showing the confirmation text, then that must mean this is a register. If not, it's going to be sign in. And this gives me an error because I have a const here. I can't use the const together with a non-constant value. This is not constant, it could change, right? So now I should add the const in the edge insets and also the text style. Refresh this, and look at that. Perfect. So now that button text is also changing. It looks much, much nicer than how it looked before. And I do actually want to give this a tiny bit more padding all around. It looks much better with the 50, I think. And see, now when we click this, we can actually see the way everything changes and all that, and that looks absolutely amazing. We could also change the shape of the flat button. I can't remember the exact field. It has something like border. Can't remember exactly. I think I mentioned to you guys before that I don't use flat buttons very often. Personally, I prefer having more control, so I use the inkwells, but that's just me. And you can see as a result, I don't know how to do it properly. But yeah, okay, so we'll leave it for now, and we'll move on to the next part. Everyone, sorry for the abrupt ending. I just finished recording this video, and it is over an hour long. So rather than releasing a single hour-long video, what I'm going to do is cut the video in half and release half an hour today and half an hour tomorrow or the next day. We'll see how it goes with the editing. So yeah, again, excuse the abrupt ending of the video, but for now, myself, videos, I'm out. Take care, guys.